I woke up with my head pounding like someone had smashed a hammer into my skull. My mouth was dry, my body felt heavy, and the room around me spun slightly as I tried to sit up. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The hotel suite was unfamiliar, sleek, luxurious, but it wasn't mine. The silky sheets were pulled loosely around my body, and the dress I had worn last night was crumpled on the floor. My heart slammed against my ribs as panic set in. What the hell happened? Then I saw my phone. The screen was blinking with a new message from an unknown number. With shaky hands, I unlocked it. You have 24 hours. Transfer $50,000 or this video goes public. Attached was a file. My stomach twisted as I tapped to open it. The video started in a dimly lit hotel room. I was there, unconscious, sprawled on the bed, my head lolling to the side. A man sat next to me, his face partially hidden, a sickening smirk playing on his lips. The way the camera was positioned, the way he moved close to me, the way his hands ghosted over my body. It was all calculated, staged. And then it hit me like a freight train. I had been drugged. The air left my lungs in one sharp gasp. My vision blurred. I gripped the edge of the bed, trying to steady myself against the crushing weight of realization. Someone had set me up, and not just anyone. Rick! The name alone sent a rush of white-hot rage through me. My ex-husband. The man who had spent years manipulating, controlling, and gaslighting me. The man who had made my life a living hell until I finally broke free. And now he had come back for more. My name is Eleanor Carter, and I am a survivor. I used to be the woman who believed in fairy tales and love that could weather any storm. But marriage to Rick Dawson had shattered those illusions, piece by piece. What started as romance turned into control, gaslighting, deception. I was suffocating, slowly drowning in a life that wasn't mine anymore. So I walked away. I left everything except for the one thing that had always been mine, my talent. I built myself from the ground up. I became one of the most sought-after jewelry designers in the country. My work caught the attention of powerful people, and this year I had been invited to an exclusive pre-inauguration gala in Washington, D.C., a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to showcase my brand on a global stage. That was supposed to be my moment, my triumph. Instead, I woke up with a ransom note and a fabricated scandal hanging over my head. Rick hadn't just come to ruin me, he had come to destroy me. I forced myself to replay the night before, my fingers digging into the sheets as I tried to claw through the fog in my mind. The gala had been everything I imagined, opulent, full of powerful people, a place where deals were made with a handshake and a perfectly timed smile. I had spent months preparing for it, knowing it could change the trajectory of my career. Rick wasn't supposed to be there, but somehow he was. I had spotted him across the room, sipping whiskey like he belonged there, his smirk sharp enough to cut glass. It had been years since I'd seen him in person, but nothing about him had changed. The same arrogance, the same entitlement, the same hunger for control. I had ignored him, refusing to let his presence ruin my night. I should have known better. The last thing I remembered was a man in a dark suit handing me a drink. He had seemed charming, harmless even, but I should have noticed the way his eyes flicked over my shoulder, like he was waiting for someone's approval. I should have noticed. Now it was too late. I stared at the phone screen, my hands tightening into fists. The old me, the woman Rick used to manipulate, would have broken down, cried, begged for mercy. But that version of me was long gone. I did not panic. I did not scream. I inhaled slowly, pushed the nausea down, and forced myself to think. What does he want? What does he think I'll do? He thought I would be terrified, that I would rush to pay, that I would crumble under the weight of the humiliation. He thought wrong, because while he had spent all this time plotting, thinking he was setting me up for the perfect downfall, he had underestimated me. I wasn't just going to clear my name, I was going to burn him to the ground. I checked the timestamp on the video, barely 6 hours old. That meant Rick was still close, still waiting for my response. Good. He wouldn't have done this alone. He was a coward, always pulling strings from the shadows, always letting someone else do the dirty work. That meant there were loose ends. People he had used, people who could turn against him. I opened my contact list and scrolled to the name I never thought I'd have to call again, Detective Marshall Grant. A man who owed me a favor, a man who knew exactly who Rick was and what he was capable of. I hit dial. The phone rang twice before he picked up, his voice groggy but alert. "Carter, it's been a while. I need your help," I said, my voice steel. Rick set me up, and I'm about to turn the tables on him. There was a pause, then a low chuckle. "I was wondering when you'd call." Rick thought he had backed me into a corner, but he had forgotten one crucial detail. I don't break, I don't fold, and I sure as hell don't lose. He had played his hand too soon, too recklessly. Now it was my turn, and I was going to make sure he regretted ever thinking he could touch me again. I didn't have time to break down. Fear? Useless. Panic? A luxury I couldn't afford. Rick thought he had me. He thought I'd be scrambling for cash, trying to make this all disappear before the world could see the video. But that's the thing about men like him. They always assume their victims will stay victims. I'd spent too many years being afraid. I wasn't about to start now. He wanted to play dirty? Fine. I'd drag him into the mud and drown him in it. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, forcing my breath to slow as I scanned the message again. For $50,000 or the video goes public. Rick had never been subtle, and that was his first mistake. Blackmail is a crime. Extortion is a crime. And I was about to make sure he paid for it. First, I needed to track the money. The bank account attached to the demand wasn't in Rick's name. Of course not. He wasn't stupid enough to leave a direct trail back to himself. Instead, it was registered to someone named James Holloway. Now, you didn't know a James Holloway, but someone would. I grabbed my phone and texted Marshall Grant, the detective I had called earlier. Me, need a name run, James Holloway. Connected to Rick. Marshall, give me 10. Good. That was in motion. Now I needed to take care of something else. Rick's plan hinged on one thing, the video. He thought the fear of it would be enough to break me, but I knew something he didn't. I wasn't alone last night. Yes, I had been drugged. Yes, they had staged the scene, but I wasn't in some abandoned hotel with no witnesses. I was at a gala filled with some of the most powerful people in the country. Government officials, CEOs, journalists. There were cameras everywhere. That meant there was proof of what actually happened. I grabbed my laptop and logged into the hotel's security request portal. If I was lucky, I'd be able to pull security footage from the lobby, the bar, anywhere I'd been before I blacked out. I wasn't going to tell the world I didn't do this. I was going to prove it. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up. Marshall, James Holloway, former security contractor, fired for misconduct. Guess who he worked for? Me, Rick Dawson. Marshall, bingo, want me to pay him a visit? I smirked. No, I wanted to handle this myself. Holloway was the weak link. Rick wasn't the type to get his hands dirty. He paid other people to do his dirty work. That meant Holloway had been the one to slip something into my drink. He had been the one to set the stage. And if I pressed him hard enough, he would crack. I found his address within minutes. A quick search showed he was staying at a run-down apartment on the outskirts of town. Perfect. I grabbed my keys. Time to make a house call. The place was exactly what I expected. A cheap, half-furnished rental with peeling paint and the stench of stale beer. I knocked twice. No answer. I knocked again, harder. The door opened a crack and a pair of bloodshot eyes peered out at me. Holloway. He was young, maybe mid-30s, but he already looked worn down, like a man who had made too many bad choices and knew he was running out of time. Who the hell are you? His voice was rough, defensive. I smiled. The woman you drugged last night. The door slammed shut. I caught it with my foot. We're not playing that game. He looked at me wide-eyed. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. See? I've got a problem, James. Someone's trying to blackmail me with a fake video. And since you were the one holding the camera, I figure you're the best person to talk to. His face paled. I didn't. You did. My voice dropped lower. And here's what's going to happen next. You're going to tell me exactly how Rick planned this. Every detail. Or, I turned my phone toward him. I'll make sure your face is the first thing the cops see when they investigate this. His jaw clenched. Rick will kill me. No, James, I said softly. I will. Silence stretched between us. Then, finally, he cracked and everything came spilling out. Rick had planned everything. He had paid Holloway to follow me at the gala, to watch for the right moment. When I had been distracted, Holloway had slipped something into my drink. Not enough to knock me out completely, but enough to make me pliable, confused. Then they had taken me to the hotel suite. Holloway had positioned the camera, staged the scene. The man in the video? Just another paid actor. Nothing had happened. But they had made sure it looked like it did. And Rick, he had been the one to edit the footage, cutting together just enough moments to make it seem real. He never planned on releasing it. He just wanted to control me, to make me squirm. He was going to regret that. I leaned in, locking eyes with Holloway. "You're going to fix this," he swallowed hard. "How?" "You're going to record a confession," he hesitated. "Rick?" "Rick is going to jail." I held out my phone, showing him the recording I had just made of our conversation. His eyes widened. "And unless you want to go down with him, you're going to tell the world what really happened?" Holloway exhaled shakily. Then, slowly, he nodded. By the time I walked out of that apartment, I had everything I needed. Holloway's confession, the real hotel security footage, the bank records linking the blackmail to Rick, a paper trail leading straight to him. He thought he had backed me into a corner. Now he was the one who had nowhere to run. I wasn't just going to prove my innocence, I was going to destroy him. Rick had no idea what was coming. While I was meticulously piecing together the threads of his downfall, he was out there gloating, celebrating, completely oblivious to the noose tightening around his neck. That was always his biggest flaw, his arrogance. He never considered the possibility that his perfect little plan might backfire. He thought he had me beaten, caged, silenced. But he had underestimated me, and that was going to cost him everything. I knew Rick. I knew how he operated, how his mind worked. He wasn't the type to sit back and wait. He wanted to watch me suffer, which meant he would reach out soon, and right on cue, my phone buzzed. "Rick, you're awfully quiet. Have you finally accepted your fate?" I stared at the message, my lips curling into a smirk. "Oh, Rick, you really think this is over?" I tapped out a response. Meet me at the Rosewood Hotel bar, 1 hour. He took the bait immediately. "Rick, smart girl, come alone." I rolled my eyes. He was still convinced he was in control. That was the last mistake he'd ever make. The Rosewood was exactly the kind of place Rick loved. High-end, exclusive, filled with people who pretended to be important. It was the perfect setting for his final moment of triumph. I walked in, keeping my expression neutral, my posture composed. I was a woman facing her executioner, and he wanted to see me bleed before delivering the final blow. He was already there, sitting at the bar, a glass of expensive whiskey in his hand. When he saw me, his lips curved into that same smug grin he had always worn when he thought he had me under his thumb. "Eleanor," he drawled, swirling his drink. "I was beginning to think you'd run." I sat down across from him, tilting my head slightly. "Why would I run?" His grin widened. "Because I own you now. You can deny it all you want, but you and I both know how this ends." I arched a brow. "Do we?" He chuckled, sipping his drink, completely at ease. That's what made Rick dangerous. He believed his own bullshit. He had spent years perfecting the art of manipulation, crafting the illusion that he was always the smartest man in the room. But this time, he wasn't. I was. "Let's not waste time," he said, leaning forward. 50 grand, now. Or tomorrow morning, the whole world gets a front row seat to your little indiscretion. I let silence stretch between us, let him think I was cornered. Then I smiled. "No." His smirk faltered. "Excuse me?" "No," I repeated, slow and deliberate. "You're not getting a single penny from me." Rick exhaled sharply, shaking his head like he was scolding a disobedient child. Eleanor, do you really think you have a choice? I have the video. I have all the leverage." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "That's funny, because from where I'm sitting, you have nothing." His jaw clenched, irritation flickering across his face. "You're bluffing." I grinned. "Am I?" And then I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Holloway's voice filled the space between us. The confession. Every detail, every part of Rick's plan laid bare. Rick's expression morphed from smug amusement to outright panic. "What the fuck is this?" he hissed. I shrugged. "It's proof. Proof that you drugged me. Proof that you staged the entire thing. Proof that you blackmailed me?" His grip tightened around his glass. He was spiraling, trying to regain control. This doesn't mean anything. It's his word against mine." I smirked. "Oh, sweetie, you really think I only have one piece of evidence?" I slid a folder across the table. Inside was everything. The real hotel security footage showing me drugged at the bar. The unedited video proving nothing had happened in that room. The bank transfer linking the blackmail account back to him. His entire empire of lies crumbling before his eyes. He flipped through the pages, his face draining of color. For the first time, he realized he had lost, but he wasn't going to accept it easily. "You don't have the guts to go public with this," he snapped, voice laced with desperation. "You're not going to ruin your own reputation just to take me down." I tilted my head. Who said anything about ruining myself? I'm the victim, Rick. You're the predator, and guess what? I leaned in, voice like ice. Society loves a revenge story. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. He was cornered, trapped, and he knew it. Rick inhaled sharply, his mind racing. I could practically see the gears turning as he tried to salvage his sinking ship. Then he switched tactics. All right, Eleanor, let's be smart about this. His tone softened, sliding into that fake charm he had used on me for years. We don't have to go nuclear. Let's make a deal. I barked out a laugh. A deal? After everything you've done? He spread his hands. Look, I messed up. I got greedy. But we can fix this. No cops, no headlines. I walk away, you walk away. I shook my head, amused. You still don't get it, do you? I picked up my phone and sent a single message. Seconds later, Rick's own phone vibrated. He pulled it out, read the notification, and went completely still. Because his bank accounts had just been frozen, his lawyer had just quit, and his name was now attached to an official investigation. The walls were closing in. And there was nothing he could do to stop it. Rick's hands clenched into fists, his face twisting with rage. You think this is over? He hissed. I stood up, smoothing down my dress. Oh, Rick, this isn't over. I leaned in, lowering my voice to a whisper. This is just the beginning. Then, without another word, I turned and walked away. Behind me, I could hear the sound of his world crashing down, and it was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. Rick had spent his entire life weaving traps for others, but this time, he had walked straight into mine. I could still hear the faint echo of his glass hitting the table as I left him sitting there, stunned, suffocating in his own downfall. The moment he read those notifications, bank accounts frozen, lawyer gone, investigation underway, was the moment his power shattered. He wasn't invincible anymore. And now I was going to make sure he never got back up. Taking Rick down wasn't enough. I didn't want him just desperate. I wanted him ruined, humiliated, a walking, breathing cautionary tale. And to do that, I needed to make sure the world saw exactly who he was. I took out my phone and sent the second message I had been waiting for. Me, release it. Across the city, a journalist was pressing publish. Within minutes, the first articles started rolling in. Prominent businessman Rick Dawson under investigation for extortion and fraud. Sources reveal damning evidence against former CEO. Scandal unfolds as blackmail plot is exposed. I watched the news cycle explode in real time. Twitter, online forums, finance blogs, everyone was talking. Because this wasn't just a scandal. This was a public execution, and I had made sure Rick was front and center, completely exposed. The confessions, the paper trail, the proof of his blackmail, drugging, and attempted character assassination. It was all there, neatly packaged for the world to devour. By the time he even thought about damage control, it was already too late. Rick must have thought he could still control the narrative, because within an hour of the news breaking, his PR team released a statement. These accusations are completely unfounded. Mr. Dawson is a respected businessman and will be pursuing legal action against these baseless claims. I almost laughed. That was cute. I gave him another 20 minutes before sending out round 2. This time, I released the full unedited audio confession from Holloway, the man Rick had paid to drug me. The internet ate it up. You don't understand, man. Rick said she wouldn't remember anything. He told me exactly how to do it. The words played on every major news channel, every social media platform, every damn podcast analyzing the scandal of the year. At that point, Rick Dawson was finished. His own people started jumping ship, business partners cut ties, his legal counsel walked away, his company's stock tanked overnight, and just like that, the empire he had spent years building, built on lies, manipulation, and control, came crashing down. I expected Rick to go into hiding, but even I underestimated his level of cowardice. Rather than face the consequences, he did what all pathetic men do when they lose. He ran. Private jets, offshore accounts, fake passports. He tried everything to escape, but the thing about running from the law? It doesn't work when every major news outlet, social media sleuth, and pissed off former business associate is tracking your every move. He was spotted in Miami. Then New York, then someone leaked that he had been trying to bribe a customs officer to get on a flight to Dubai. Big mistake. Within 48 hours, the feds were all over him. And just like that, Rick Dawson, the man who thought he was untouchable, was in handcuffs. I wasn't in the courtroom when they brought him in, but I watched the footage live. Rick, in a wrinkled suit, hair disheveled, eyes sunken. He looked small, weak. Nothing like the man who had once sneered at me from across a courtroom, confident that he could break me. How poetic. His charges? Extortion, blackmail, fraud, drugging with intent to harm, tampering with evidence. He pled not guilty. Of course he did. Rick always thought he could talk his way out of anything, but then the judge brought up the evidence, the confession, the security footage, the bank records, the digital footprint of every crime he had committed, and suddenly, Rick Dawson was looking at 25 years behind bars. I didn't need to see his sentencing in person. I already knew how it would end, but the night before his trial, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Rick. You win. I stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even remorse. Just 2 words from a man who had finally realized that I was stronger than he ever gave me credit for. I didn't reply. I just deleted it. The next morning, I woke up lighter. For years, Rick had been the shadow looming over my life, a constant, suffocating presence that tried to keep me small, afraid, trapped in his web. But now I was free, and Rick was nothing. I went to a rooftop bar that night, a place overlooking the city. I ordered a glass of whiskey, not because I liked it, but because it was Rick's drink of choice. And as I watched the city lights flicker below me, I raised my glass in a quiet toast. Here's to you, Rick. I took a slow sip, savoring the moment. Then I set the glass down, untouched, and walked away. Because unlike him, I had a life to live. I woke up to silence, the kind of silence that comes when the storm has finally passed, when the war is over and the battlefield is empty. It was a feeling I hadn't known in years. Absolute peace. For the first time in my life, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I wasn't waiting for the next attack, the next betrayal, the next wave of chaos that came with Rick Dawson. Because now, Rick Dawson was nothing. It took the jury just 3 hours to come back with the verdict guilty on every charge. Rick sat at the defense table, his face pale, his once pristine suit now wrinkled and loose on his frame. He had lost weight in the months leading up to the trial, probably from the stress, the fear. For years, he had been the one pulling the strings. He had built his life around control, manipulation, power. Now he was powerless. When the judge read his sentence, 30 years, no chance of early parole, I saw it. That moment when he truly understood. This wasn't some setback he could smooth talk his way out of. This wasn't a temporary inconvenience. This was the end. He turned, looking at me across the room, maybe searching for some kind of mercy, maybe hoping I'd feel pity. I didn't, because Rick Dawson had made me feel small for years. And now he was the one shrinking. I never expected an apology from him. I never expected regret. But when he looked at me in those last moments before being led away in handcuffs, I saw something else. Fear. Not just fear of prison. Not just fear of losing his wealth, his reputation. Fear of irrelevance. Because after years of scheming, manipulating, lying, and playing games, he was finally facing the truth. And the truth was that he didn't matter anymore. The fallout was brutal. Rick had once been respected, feared even. People had lined up to do business with him, to be in his circle, to stand in his shadow and hope some of his power rubbed off. But the moment the verdict hit the news, they dropped him like dead weight. His name became synonymous with failure, corruption, and greed. His business, gone. His wealth, seized. His reputation, a joke. It wasn't just a fall from grace, it was a complete annihilation. No one would remember the man who had once controlled multi-million-dollar deals. They wouldn't remember the charming, successful businessman. No, they would remember the man who tried to ruin me and destroyed himself instead. His friends? Nowhere to be found. His lawyers? Jumped ship the moment his case became unsalvageable. Even his family, his own blood, refused to associate with him. He was alone and forgotten, a ghost before he had even died. And honestly, that was a better punishment than any prison sentence. While Rick rotted behind bars, my life soared. My jewelry brand, bigger than ever. My name, more respected than before. My peace, finally, mine. In the wake of the scandal, people rallied around me. Investors, clients, even strangers who had followed my story. They admired that I hadn't crumbled under Rick's blackmail, that I had fought back and won. I had become the woman who took down a monster. And the best part, I had done it without sinking to his level. Rick had tried to destroy me with lies, but I had buried him with the truth. Every time I saw my company's numbers climb, every time I saw my name in the press for the right reasons, every time a new business deal came through, I smiled. Because I had built my life. And Rick, he had destroyed his own. Months passed, life moved forward. Then, one morning, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name written in a familiar scrawl, Rick. I held the envelope between my fingers, debating, why should I care? Why should I give him even a second more of my time? But curiosity won. The letter was short, 4 sentences. Eleanor, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to, but every night in this cell, I think about how different things could have been. You won. I read it twice. Then I folded it neatly and dropped it in the trash. Rick Dawson didn't deserve my forgiveness, and I wasn't about to waste another second thinking about him. A few weeks later, I found myself near the prison where Rick was being held. I didn't plan it. I wasn't there for him. I was there for me. To close the chapter completely, standing outside those towering concrete walls, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no resentment. Rick was just another washed-up fraud, locked away and forgotten. And me? I was free. For the first time in years, I was truly free. I turned my back on that prison and walked away, never looking back, because the story of Rick Dawson had ended. And mine was just beginning. They say revenge is best served cold. I disagree. It's best served slow. Rick had spent years weaving his web, thinking he was the puppet master, but in the end, I was the one who pulled the strings. He thought he had control. He thought he could break me. He thought he could bury me in his lies. Instead, I thrived in the ruins of his empire. That was the best revenge of all. If you've ever been broken, manipulated, or made to feel small, remember this: the best revenge is survival. It's thriving when they swore you wouldn't. It's proving them wrong every single day you wake up and refuse to let them win. I didn't just survive Rick Dawson. I made sure he would never hurt anyone again. And if I can do it, so can you.